Herzlich willkommen bei #Hightech von Film und TV Kamera und Altruist Films hier auf der NAB Show 2018. Wir sind am Stand von Blackmagic Design und wollen mal hören, was hier so Neues herumsteht.
And we are here with Stuart Ashton, who is the Director of Europe, Middle East and Africa. And we have a very, very interesting new product here. So maybe you can show us around a little bit.
Yeah, of course. The product that you're actually seeing in my hands is the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. This is something that we've been asked about for a number of years now, since firstly introducing the Pocket Cinema Camera. There was a natural evolution in that people wanted a 4K resolution. But for us, what was important is that when we actually provided or created this product, it was exactly what we were looking for in terms of its quality and both ergonomically and in terms of the features that it possesses. We've learnt a huge amount from the Ursa Mini projects that we've been working on, where we've developed our own colour science, we've introduced new codecs, we've worked with various different materials and also focused very heavily on the ergonomics. So what you're seeing here is a slightly larger product than what you originally saw with the first Pocket Cinema camera, but that you shouldn't be deceived by that, because this is one hell of a powerful camera with the functionality of what it can do. Just to kind of highlight some of the key points of it, you're looking at a micro 4/3 lens mount, and we have a 4/3 sensor inside the camera. That means that with all of those micro 4/3 lenses that you have, you're not going to introduce any crop factor into that. So you're going to get a native 4/3 image through that 4/3 sensor. In addition to that, the camera has 13 stops of dynamic range, which means that you've got an enormous amount of latitude. And in addition to that as well, you've got a dual ISO setting at 400 ISO and at 3200 ISO, with the capability to go all the way to 25,600 ISO. So in terms of low light performance, this camera should be able to produce some great images within a low light environment. The camera is familiar to a lot of people in terms of its functionality. We've got a series of controls and buttons on the outside of the camera that operate the main functions of the camera. If I sort of tilt that up, you'll see that on top of the camera we have the ability to select ISO and shutter speed and white balance. And then at the front of the camera, if I turn the camera around, you'll see that there is a jog wheel which allows me to cycle through each of those settings. We've got a record button on top of the camera. We've got a record button in front of the camera if we're shooting ourselves. And then right at the top of the camera, you'll see the on-off switch, and also the function buttons that can be pre-programmed to operate different functions of the camera. On the back of the camera, I've got a HFR, which is high frame rates. This means that I can select a secondary frame rate, which could be a higher frame rate than the one that I'm using. And by hitting this button, what happens with a single click, I could jump from, say, 30 to 60 frames per second. We've also got on there as well a zoom in function, so we can actually zoom into our talent and actually check focus. We've got a menu button on there as well that allows us to cycle through a series of menus that control all the main functions of the camera. So I'm going to do that now. So I've just jumped into the menu button. I've just clicked the button and this has brought up this familiar Ursa Mini style user interface. And we've got on there a series of headers across the top: record, monitor, audio, setup, presets and LUTs. If I start with the record settings, what you'll see is, first of all, we have the ability to record in ProRes or in RAW. Now, the RAW functionality allows us to record lossless RAW, RAW 3.1 and RAW 4.1. The ProRes allows us to record HQ ProRes 422, so a 10-bit a high-quality 10-bit ProRes codec, all the way down to ProRes proxy. So you can store a lot of information, obviously, if you're recording within a proxy environment. We have the ability to record Ultra HD up to 4K DCI, as well as traditional Ultra HD flavors, which is 3840 by 2160. And then we have obviously HD options on there too. The HD options allows us to use the windowed part of the sensor when we're shooting in high frame rate, which can go up to 120 frames per second. As I step through, you will see, again, familiar settings on the monitoring, things like zebras, focus assist, false color. We have audio controls, so we can monitor our audio levels. If I go to presets, we can load personal presets for me as a user. Maybe the setup requires a particular type of preset. And then obviously LUTs, so lookup tables, so we can create a specific type of look for the image that we're trying to shoot. But one nice feature with that lookup table is we also have the ability to bake that lookup table into the image if we wanted to. So that's the main features of the menu. If I come back out of there, you'll see that on the back of the 5-inch screen, all of these are also accessible through the top and bottom of the menu structure, which overlays our camera output. So you can see we've got our frames per second up in the top, we've got shutter speed, iris setting, time code, ISO settings, etc. So everything is meant to be accessible very, very easily. So that's the general main menu.
What about the shutter speed? Can you also see the shutter speed instead of the angle?
So with this camera, what you're getting is effectively shutter settings, which will show the shutter angle. It doesn't actually show the shutter speed. We've got full iris control and full shutter angle control on there, but no, in terms of the shutter speed, no. What we do have at the top is obviously frames per second, so we can see what frame rate we're running at, which is obviously very interesting for a lot of people because they want to make sure that certainly when you're working with your media, you want to ensure that you're not shooting at a higher frame rate if unnecessary.
And about the cards that you're using, we have a CFast 2 card and SD card slot?
Yeah, that's correct. If I open the side of the camera and I turn it around here so you can see it, we have an SD card slot, which will take a standard SD or a UHC 2 card, and we've also got a CFast slot as well. The reason why we've given both options is because if you're recording with high frame rate at Ultra HD, you want to ensure that you have a media that's fast enough to obtain that footage, which is what you will get with the CFast and a UHC card. Another nice feature is if I turn the camera the other way and I take and I expose the side of the camera, you will also see that there is a USB-C connection on the side. Now the reason that we've introduced USB-C is that USB-C also carries power, so we can run power directly from a USB-C source to the camera, but also we can connect a USB-C drive and actually record directly to the USB-C drive, which means...
Any drive?
Any of the high-speed USB-C drives, we recommend. There'll be a full list of the ones that we recommend on our website. But clearly the benefit of USB-C is the fact that you can record immediately, eject that drive, load that directly into your computer and start working on your footage straight away.
Can you record to this at the same time with one of the internal recording options?
Not at the moment. At the moment you would have to choose between one or the other. There is also a live HDMI output on there as well that you could use for monitoring, or you could record to a separate off-board recorder. That's a HD 1080p output on there as well.
And the LUT will be available on this one as well, so that you can monitor with your look?
Yeah, so this will output directly from the camera what you've set at the camera. So it'll be effectively a full program out coming from that HDMI source. Sorry, the HDMI source. In addition to that as well, we've got on there another audio connection, which is a mini jack, and we've got a headphone socket too. Front of the camera, we've got a stereo pair of microphones on each side, so 2 on either side. So all in all, the camera provides you with a number of features that are familiar on the Ursa Mini, but obviously in a much smaller body size and in a much more lightweight form factor.
And what's the price point?
So the amazing price point on this actually is $1,295. But it doesn't just come on its own, it actually comes with a full copy of Resolve Studio, which will be Resolve Studio 15. So you're going to get all of the Resolve features. You're also going to get Fusion now, which is going to be integrated within Resolve. So you're getting around about $300 worth of software coming free with the camera.
And this is one of 7 prototypes that are available right now, and I just had to feel it and touch it. Of course, and it already feels very light, but you have some further information about that.
Yeah, so the prototypes that we're showing at the show are an aluminum body, but we are looking at a final version which is going to be polycarbonate. That's one of the reasons why we have a September shipping date, because we're going through the tooling process now and producing the bodies for this. Once it's a polycarbonate body, it will reduce the weight quite significantly, and we anticipate that this will be probably no more than around about 700 grams in weight.
I think you can talk like half an hour about this product, but maybe you already got one more information that you would like to highlight about the product.
I mean, I think that, you know, what I would say is that anybody who's looking for a cinematic camera that is looking to get great images, working within a high dynamic range, anybody who's familiar with Blackmagic, they will know that the Ursa Mini Pro, the Ursa Mini 4.6, also the original pocket cinema camera, for us, we've spent a significant amount of time in working on that final image by the work that we've done with DaVinci Resolve. So this has been 4 years in the making. This camera is something that we're really proud of, and something that we believe is going to produce some of the highest quality images out there.
You talked about the high frame rates. What will be available in what format? Like, what frame rate will be available in what format?
Okay, so in all of the 4K varieties, it's going to go up to 60 frames per second as its maximum. Within HD, it's going to be 120 frames as its maximum. Yeah. You know, I think that what you're going to get with that is something that allows you to be incredibly creative. Certainly because we've got additional ISO settings in there as well, which means that there's going to be minimal compromise in terms of light entering the camera. Yeah. You know, obviously when we increase those frame rates. So I think that, you know, one thing which is really exciting about this and something that we're looking forward to testing is what those high frame rates actually look like also in low light.
I have one last question about the sensor. Is it different from all the other sensors that you have in terms of the internal technology, or how will the quality of the image be discernible from the more expensive cameras like the Ursa Mini Pro? Because I think a lot of people will actually shoot with this camera as maybe a B-roll camera together with the Ursa Mini Pro.
Well, whenever we design a new camera, especially the cinema camera range, what we look for is a similarity in terms of the image output from each of those cameras. The point being is exactly what you're stating, in that what we want to do is be able to match multiple cameras together. In terms of the sensor is different, obviously, than the other sensors that we have. But the sensor size and the functionality of the sensor, whilst that may be different, the work that we do to try and obtain that image, the debayering that we do within the raw files, everything that we do to enhance the quality of that sensor, we do within a parameter that tries to maintain a look across all of those cameras.
I've got one last question. When will the camera be available?
We're very confident the camera's going to ship before September. We've put an enormous amount of work in already, and we believe that you know, the camera is pretty much ready to go, other than the fact that we have tooling and building to do. Yeah. You'll notice that from previously, we've over the course of the last 18 months, we've announced products and shipped them at the same time. We just felt that NAB was too great an opportunity for us not to get this product in front of our customer base, and we anticipate that you know, there should be no reason why this can't be delivered prior to IBC. Yeah.
This was Film and TV Camera and Altruist Films here from the Blackmagic design booth of NAB Show 2018.